Well, what have you got going on? What's top of mind right now?
Top of mind, man. We've got a lot of. It seems like our weeks continue to be positive. Like if I step back, it's all positive things, but we have a huge amount of change, and so I always feel like I'm not caught up, or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or I'm not on schedule, or I'm not good enough. Like I'm not getting it done. But in reality, we've brought a lot of, obviously we brought a lot of this change on ourselves, right? And it's just all the newness, anywhere from name change to office change to staff change to financial changes. Like it's all across the board. And so right now I feel I feel a little bit disheveled.
Has this happened before? Is this
not
new?
Not to this magnitude.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not to this magnitude, and it's on purpose, right? We have a plan to grow to a certain size in a certain number of years, and I think that this uncomfort has to be so, right? Because I'm never an individual that remains stagnant for too long, whether it's small, things that I just alter and change and move. And this one is pretty impactful in a way that it changes the game for us internally.
Yeah.
Hopefully it makes us better. Well, I mean, it will make us better in a certain number of ways. And it's also finding people, surrounding yourself around people that you trust and that that are perhaps smarter than you in certain arenas, obviously, and that will help guide you in certain areas, right? Yeah. That you feel like you're lacking. And as a small business owner, I think that's a large part of recognizing inside yourself where are you most impactful. How do you want to build your team in order to get better? Who are the people that will help you do that? Because it's a test fit, and in most cases, it's always a test fit. You never know until you get into it. And so it's making those decisions that, yes, this could work. If it doesn't work, then you have to pivot and you have to take it out and then find something new. So I think we're in this period of, making a ton of change, and then oftentimes we jump in a way that we can with a mindset that we can do it all. And so there's some pulling back and there's some pushing and there's right. So we started with 10 things that we were changing that are pretty big items. Now we've pulled back and we're only doing 5. And those are for various reasons. But I think realizing whether it's quality, that of delivery, whether it's time, whether it's financial, all those are effective in terms of how do you maneuver. And so, yeah.
How do you think about staying calculated with what's going on right now, benchmarking against a strategy and being reactive? Like, how do you feel? Is it mostly calculated, or is it a lot of reactivity to what's kind of happening? Like,
I don't think that you, I would like to say that it's mostly calculated, right? But you wake up in any day and shit changes in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So it's very reactive as well.
Yeah.
You can't control personalities in your office some days. You can't control how staff may swing up or swing down. Like you can't control those things. So those are very reactive. But I think, what I was saying earlier is if you allow yourself to step back and you have a certain data source that you can trust in order to track it, then you can remove yourself from that reaction and be proactive in a way that allows you to make smarter decisions.
So what are you tracking? Like when you're going through something like this, what are the fundamentals that you're watching?
Finances.
Yeah.
Right. It's the effectiveness of our team. It's the workflow. It's the quality of work. It's the ease of how we process through projects. And then it's the finances, right? If those are two big things, right? Probably obvious, but some of that is just having a watchful eye, on the arena and the office. Some of it is data tracking from finances to hours to phase of work completed. Some of it is just the quality of work, right? Of what we do and how we produce it. You could also say that it's a general happiness of a client. That's a hard one, but and then it's the monthly invoices, right? It's the revenue coming in per month.
Yeah.
And I think all those things, if you're tracking it not on a day-to-day basis, but if you're tracking it consistently over the course of the years, if you've been doing this for a while, you see an ebb and flow, right? You tendency is to get freaked out when something changes, but that's not the appropriate way to handle it. You have to know that it's going to even keel itself and ride through in a way. And but that data is helpful, in terms of understanding the roller coaster of our market, of our economy, of the workflow of the projects. So when it is a little bit turbulent, like it is for us right now, it's helpful to go back and have that historical data of knowing that, all right, that we've been through a little bit of this, not probably so much, but we've been through a little bit of this before. So it's almost reassuring in a way that that it will get better.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
I know that before this too, I was thinking about on your mind, not to speak for you, but on your mind was was marketing and advertising. I was thinking a lot about that because that's one thing that we have pulled back on in terms of
like intentionally pulled back on.
Intentionally.
Okay. Why is that?
I think, when we look back at what social media does, what our resources provided towards marketing, how we put ourselves out there externally in a way that's not me or not someone in our office or I guess if we're paying for those services, right? I guess that's a marketing service where it's 1% to 5% of your overall revenue, right? There's a budget for it. And we found over the course of time that, I don't know, it's like this nebulous thing, right? Your ROI is that one is very hard to track for me.
Yeah.
Because most of our work comes from people that we know and references.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily through social media or the books that we're in or the magazines that we're in or the awards that we win. So I think what I've found though is marketing and all the efforts that we go through outside of our office in regard, outside of the work that we produce and outside of our office in terms of how we talk about it and where we are.
Mm-hmm.
How are we reaching people as an individual? How are we reaching those community members or the people that we that we've been working with? I think the effectiveness of, I'll just label it as social media, really is mostly beneficial from a staffing perspective. And so it keeps us relative in a way that is interesting from, this surface platform, but in regards to bringing us revenue and more work and some of the things that we want to gravitate towards and in terms of scaling up, I'm always questioning it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a good amount of money that we probably spend more than a size of an office that we are. And it's something that I've always questioned.
Yeah.
So anyway, we pulled back to see what it is, what is it that we're after? Who are we targeting?
Yeah.
What is our effectiveness and what we're doing and who do we need to go after when we recharge? Because we'll recharge and go after, marketing a certain arena, but if you don't understand who your target market is, how you're marketing yourself, what that consistency is in that statement and how you're marketing yourself, then I think you're reaching this global platform that's really difficult to understand the rate of return.
Yeah.
Large part of marketing, though, which I do think is effective, is just being of mind, right? If you're consistent and you're on a whatever platform, if you're consistent and you're reaching people's top of mind, that could be another way to, to look at it. And I think that's true.
Yeah.
Right. There's so many architects, there's so many builders that are good. And I can't say that we're better than the next. And we've talked about this a little bit, but if you're not of top of mind, then you'll get passed up.
Yeah.
So there's a rate of return there that's hard to track, but I think it's real. How about you guys?
Yeah, talking about the marketing and business development, I know for me anyway, that's been something I focused on. Well, I've been thinking about it for our business over the last 6 months and trying to prepare to get to where we're at now. We're making more of a conscious effort towards marketing and business development. My history with it. And it's interesting what you're saying that you guys are pulling back because you're trying to see what the rate of return is on it. My history with sales and marketing, first and foremost, I don't like sales. I don't, because personally, I don't like to be sold. I don't like people cold calling me. I don't like getting all these emails. I don't like it. So I overlay the way I feel about it onto everybody else out there. And so I've always been hesitant to really do a lot of that. But at the same time, I understand that we've got to build awareness of our company. Early on with my first company, we tried everything. I mean, I could tell you some of the gimmicky, stupid things that we did to try to get attention. But, 9 out of every 10 really good clients that we got was really just being at the right place at the right time. And I don't know how much I can attribute that to any of our sales efforts or marketing efforts. At one time I had a team of 3 people that were just cold calling, and we had different lead services that we would, chase down and call, and publications that specialize in like restaurant, the TRA and Restaurant News and, NRA and all these different publications. We would just scour through those and try to get a hold of people. And we got a chance back then to build sales. We got opportunities to bid on projects. But now when I look at that, a lot of that was we were competitively bidding things, and, we were the kind of race to the bottom in that game of the race to the bottom, who could be the cheapest.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those projects weren't great. And if I think back, a lot of the clients that we got out of that effort weren't really long-term. Kind of to your point, a lot of our longer term clients we acquired those through word of mouth, through, some reputation, referrals, that kind of thing. But, as we stand here today talking about this, Citadel, we are, we're almost 25 employees now.
Yeah.
And when I think about that, and we've got a lot of great people now. Like I'm more proud of our team today than I've ever been proud of any team that I've developed. Right. And so now I'm like, man, I want to keep them going. I want to keep busy. I want to, and how do I do that? Well, I've got to go out and hunt and get more work. So, my theory around marketing now is it's going to be a lot of capturing content. And we're doing that with Instagram. We're doing that with YouTube, with LinkedIn, Facebook. We hired a social media manager a couple months ago. And, he's been recommending all these different platforms to get us out on. And, the way I'm thinking about it now is more about, we want to build a database of content so that if somebody does find out about us and they investigate us, it's going to build credibility quickly. I'm not thinking about it so much as we're going to go out and sell people. We're not going to get in front of people and convince them to use us or to reach out to us based on our content. It's more of, hey, there's this database over here of where we're documenting projects. We're going to be doing different features of just basically capturing content so that, and we are going to broadcast it, right? It's not like we're not going to be we're not going to be defensive with it, or we're going to be proactive, I guess is what I'm trying to say, of pushing that content out. And really, to me, it's in an effort of just building credibility. Because I found that if we can get on somebody's radar, number one, number two, and it's the right time, they're looking, because again, most of our outside of a personal reference or referral, most of our work has come from contacting somebody at the right time when they had a project that went bad before, they had a contractor that they had a bad relationship with before. I mean, I could tell you a lot of interesting stories of how, like, we were there at the right time, had the right conversation, and that particular client had just recently had a bad experience with a contractor. Yeah. And then we got in and were able to do work and build a relationship that was long-term. Yeah. So I think there's still an element of like being in front of people, contacting, touching. Yeah. But at the same time, when we do that, they're able to look at us, either go invest, find us on Instagram, find us on YouTube, and, see some of our content. And we're trying to really relay our authenticity through all the content. Yeah. Right. So we're trying to put our core values into the content so that somebody sees that and they say, okay, well, there's congruency between who we say we are and what somebody sees in our content, and then ultimately what they experience when they work with us. So all that being said, our strategy right now, and we're testing it. I don't know what the ROI is going to be yet. I mean, we're investing, a good amount of money in it, of creating a lot of content and putting it out.
So you're within all the content that you're producing, you're finding a consistency of delivery.
We're trying to find a consistency of delivery. Yeah, I mean, so we've got a social media manager, which I've never had that before. Yeah. We have weekly meetings. We have a calendar. We have a real strategic approach to LinkedIn posts and YouTube posts and Instagram posts, and then inside of that is full videos, it's clips, it's just images, and so we're testing it, and we're still fairly early in it, right? So we're going to do this for a few months and then start looking back and go, okay, well, what really resonates? I can tell you right now that the two platforms that we've gotten a lot of engagement and feedback on are LinkedIn and YouTube.
Okay.
I had somebody today just reach out and comment on some of the videos that we're putting out, positively. Yeah. Same thing with Instagram. I think with those platforms, you can it's more conducive to B2B business, right? We're able to, we're able to target certain people on LinkedIn, right? Construction managers, business development, chief business development officers, people that we would want to get in front of. We can go and search that out and hopefully, get our content in front of them. So at least we're on their radar.
Yeah.
And then if we can continue staying on their radar, there's going to come a time when they have to either add people to their bid list because they're growing faster. They have a bad experience and they're like, well, okay, well, man, I keep seeing Citadel pop up and it looks like the way they handle themselves, it's like, man, they might be a good fit.
Yeah.
And so we're going to see what happens.
I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it's a good thing. It's just always a question about how much, because I know it takes a lot of your time. It takes a lot of my time.
Sure. Yeah.
And before we did it internally, I helped out. I wrote a lot of it. And then it got to be too much, where it took up too much time.
Yeah.
And then I'm just not a social media person.
Yeah.
And I don't really like to be on it. I don't do, so there's a level of just personal interest that I'm just dissatisfied with.
Well, something else on my side is that I look at a lot of the companies, construction companies that we would aspire to be like size-wise, project type. And I don't see a lot of those guys doing what we're trying to do.
But at the same time, they have gone through this because they have not always been that size. They've not always been that public or in your face in terms of whatever the market is. And so I do think that everybody goes through this, and there's a necessary value of exploration to see what the right fit is.
Yeah.
One of the big positives, though, is the content that you're having to face in terms of content delivery.
Yeah.
Like that's huge. There's going to be a library of information.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to post it on social media or just say, man, I don't need that. I'm just going to build a badass website, right? And I'm going to figure out how to dish that website out, and that's going to be my library of content. Whatever works for whatever reason. I think the library that you're building right now, that's of value.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the other interesting side effect or consequence that I'm starting to notice, even with myself, is, I speaking for me first is, I don't like to hear myself.
Oh gosh. I listened to one of these this week.
Yeah.
I was thinking, Mark, shut the fuck up, man. You're talking too much. Where's Jeremy?
Well, yeah. And I was listening to one on the way over here this morning, and I don't, I've never enjoyed listening to myself speak.
It kills me.
I wish I could show you this, where my freshman year in college, I had to do a presentation and we videoed it, and I'd forgotten all about it. And we happened to come across this old VHS tape where it was on there, and I'm watching myself, at, I think I was probably 17 years old. And I'm like, man, that kid at 17 had a problem. You know what I mean? I couldn't look at the camera. I mumbled. I was shocked by how terrible I sounded. Yeah. And so anyways, I don't like the way I speak, but this morning listening, I'm like, not that I was saying anything smart on the thing I was listening to this morning, but I'm like, man, I could tell a little bit of improvement in the way I speak. Yeah. And I think that's that's because I'm worried about it, and I want to take my time and maybe be a little more articulate, whatever. So I've found that for me anyway, putting a lot of content out, being on camera, having to speak, has improved my delivery a little bit. But
absolutely.
Now for the team, what's interesting is that 6 months ago or more, when we started saying, hey, this is coming, right? We're going to start really documenting a lot of our stuff, projects, procedures. Work. We're just going to start capturing a lot of content. The initial reaction was, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be on camera. And so I'm like, well, I know that, but listen, this is not going to be very produced. It's just going to be capturing. It's going to be documenting. So just be yourself, right? Be authentic. And that's what we want. It doesn't have to be scripted. It doesn't have to be polished. And so now they're coming around a little bit. Yeah. But there is a certain thing when they know that we're going to have a camera out, The people are a little bit more prepared.
Yeah.
Right. They're a little bit better put together.
Yep.
And I think there's something to say about, okay, as we operate going forward, knowing that we're going to capture this and put it out, I would argue that performance is a little improved.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right? They're taking things a little more seriously. They're starting to think about why they do things and why they're doing, how they're doing certain things, why they're doing certain things, why they're saying things that is like, well, we want to show up really well.
Yeah.
And, we want to act like we know what we're doing. We want to come across as we know what we're doing. We want to come across as being more professional, I think. And you're starting to see that in their work.
Yeah.
Which I think is, and so I don't know, we'll see how that plays out over the long term, but
I think that's all true, because there's things that we do in our actions that we have a hard time verbalizing.
Yeah.
And those are two very different things. You can be production all day long, but then you could be a horrible speaker.
Yeah.
And in our world, especially if you're front facing in a way, you have to do both.
Yeah.
And it's exercise, right? It's an exercise of the brain. It's an exercise in your confidence. It's an exercise in just really understanding exactly what you do and how you verbalize it. Because those are two separate things that are sometimes real difficult to marry.
Yeah.
And through architecture school, we're subjected to a lot of criticism, right? We have to defend all of our stuff. We have to constantly stand in front of one to, 50 people, right? And defend what we're doing. Some are listening, some are not, but most of the time they're nitpicking, right? Which is fine, right? We have to learn how to defend what we do. But, and it's horrible, right? We can have the most beautiful work. And then I can remember several times being real proud of what I put up on the wall. And then I got up and I was like, but I didn't practice, right? The best thing you could do is look in the mirror and practice what you say, what you're going to say, just rehearse it.
What I'm finding though, and I wonder if you feel the same way, like if you had a project that you had to turn in, right? Obviously you want to do well, but is there a difference in the quality at the end of the day between, wanting to do well and turning a project in to a professor where they're going to look at it and grade it versus knowing that you got to turn a project in and to defend it to a lot of different people, critics, the professors, right? I think when people know that their work is going to become public, there's a certain level of like pride that you take in certain things. But I think, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, but then there's another level if you know that you've got to put that out publicly and defend it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like we've got a couple projects coming up that you're going to be part of that are big things, big deals for us that, and we've told everybody, look, we're going to document the whole process.
Yeah.
Right. Our social media guy is going to show up. He's going to ask you about things. He's going to, and so they're actually stepping up a little bit, knowing that, hey man, whether this project goes good or bad, this is going to be public.
Yeah. So
I think they're going to take it a little more seriously and maybe perform a little bit better. I think that's my hypothesis.
A small instance of that was one of the projects that we're working on together. You asked for a rendering, and I said, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." Which it never is a problem sharing renderings, right?
Sure.
But then I looked back at what we had, and it looked like it wasn't good. Like it wasn't the quality that I would be happy to share it with you, but it's not the quality that we want to share with the public.
Yeah.
And so I stepped back and it's like, oh, it's going to take us a little bit longer. Yeah. It's not what we want to hear because you wanted it right then. Yeah. But that's perhaps what you're saying is I don't want anything released publicly that is going to make any of us look bad. And it's not necessarily looking bad, but it's a quality that we want to maintain.
Yeah.
And we've had clients, people that will take some of our process work and put it on the business journal, put it somewhere where it does get noticed.
Yeah.
And our name's on it. We're like, that can't happen.
Yeah.
Like we always need to have our best foot forward.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know how we're going to narrate it, and we need to know what about the images that are going to be publicized, so we can prepare ourselves. And you could also go in with a frame of mind and say, well, any publicity is good publicity because you're in the forefront of someone's mind. Well, sure, but we want it to be of quality.
Yeah. I think there's an element of that, of just, again, there's this thing about, don't produce content, just document it.
Yeah.
So you're going to catch some of the good and some of the bad.
Yeah.
But I think definitely you want to make it authentic to your company. And if you hold certain things in high regard, then yeah, you need to prepare for that, right? If a presentation's not, if you don't think it's good enough to put out, well then yeah, don't put it out.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of it, don't worry about having to be so perfect that
that's right.
You can't put anything out. At a certain point, you've got to
release it.
You got to put it out, Yeah. But again, that goes back to like knowing that something's going to be made public. I think most people that really give a shit about what they're doing, would take a little bit more care of like, okay, well, let's get this the best that we can before everybody sees it.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we do, is, it feels like we're always racing towards a deadline. And part of the thing that gets compromised is your quality and everything else. So it's like, we're asking for everything, right? We're asking everything from ourselves and from our team members. Yeah, we have to go as fast as we can, but within reason. At the end of the day, we want to deliver a good product and we want it to look nice, because that's what stands the test of time. I think, a year after, you finish a project, like the pitch, when I go out and look at the pitch now, it's far enough after the completion that I'm starting to forget all the problems and everything else, and I can appreciate how it looks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I still can go out there and I can see different things that weren't up to like as good as I wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think what the quality of something's going to last a lot longer than how how fast it went, I guess.
How are you? So is your method these days in terms of the mindset of, whatever public that you're trying to reach, do you have a particular audience, or is a method, I'm going to just attack and I'm going to be everywhere?
Yeah. Well, right now it's everything. It's everything everywhere. We're trying to identify trends of what would work for us.
Yeah.
And like I said, so our overall strategy is that, again, we've got a social media manager now. And he's going around weekly, hitting job sites, filming the projects, interviewing our superintendents. Today we're going to do a video with the team that's going to do kind of a case study on one of our biggest clients. We're going to talk about the engagement and how we got started, and what services we provided throughout this engagement. What are some of the wins? What are some of the challenges that we had? And then how we can take all that and apply that going forward. So we're going to shoot this video today, and that'll go out on all the platforms. It'll go out on YouTube. It'll go to, we'll chop it up, put it on Instagram. We'll chop it up, put it on LinkedIn. And then we're also playing with email marketing. So we're working on building a big email list. And so now we've got scheduled emails that go out that'll be, different, top 5 ways to get through permitting more expeditiously or something like that. And then we're also emailing out links to our videos. And so, yeah, we're doing everything right now to see, okay, what kind of feedback are we going to get?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that the 2 things that have risen to the top so far are, videos that we've put out on LinkedIn, and then videos that we've emailed out.
Yeah.
Again, most of the engagement has been there. So I think we're going to keep doing it. Like our social media guy was like, well, we got to have a Facebook page. I'm like, I don't know how many people are going to come across us on Facebook and want to hire us to do a project.
Yeah. But
then again, he's like, well, it's another, or in TikTok,
another
for that
platform.
Matter.
Yeah.
We have a TikTok. I haven't even looked at it yet, but we have a TikTok account
that
he's putting stuff on. And, we're going to see. We're going to see what happens.
If you, I don't think there's any negative to it, right? Because the biggest benefit is just being there, right? Being present, being current, like that's the biggest benefit.
Yeah.
Where that gets you work, maybe not. But I guess I'd take that back. If you're of the mindset, if you're current, then it should theoretically bring you to the surface to get more work.
Well, the way I look at it is, over the way I'm pro forma-ing it out now is that I've got a pretty good idea of what's going to cost me this year to do it for 12 months.
Yep.
And really, if we can get, one, maybe two multi-project clients, then it'll pay for itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it'll be worth it.
Yep.
So if we get, more than two clients out of it,
sure,
then it's a home run.
Yep. Whenever you get those clients, do you, I guess you're asking them, hey, where'd you find us? Right. Yeah. Do you do a little interview?
Well, we kind of know, right? We've got one right now that we're chasing down. I don't want to mention who it is just yet because we're close. We should get our first opportunity in the next 2 weeks to look at a project. But they came across us on LinkedIn 8 months ago.
Yeah.
They were one of the ones that just reached out in the last couple of days and said, "Hey man, I love the video you put out." So we're getting a lot of positive attention. And it's gotten into where, we're having these conversations around, they want our input on certain processes internally for them because they want to grow. It's a concept that's looking to grow pretty aggressively. And they can see in our content that we've been involved with several concepts that have grown rapidly. So, I mean, again, we're building that credibility as somebody they could trust to come in. And so, if we lock that in and we end up doing, multiple projects, then I can attribute that back to our efforts. Yeah. And so we're still early on with this. I mean, I figured we'd give it a year to just see what kind of, we're tracking stats, we're tracking engagement, we're tracking subscribers to our YouTube page. We're tracking all that just to see if we're making progress, and we're making small incremental progress. So,
well, it sounds like it is. I've seen some of the videos; they look great. I'd be interested to see or to listen to understand what that consistency is, of message, because I do think that's the best part about it is how you're talking about yourself, because you could go in and you could talk about a project in a number of ways and it not resonate based on your cores or what you're trying to sell.
One early example of this, and where I started getting the idea of just filming everything, and is there's a company that we did business with a few years ago, and they started capture, like early on they had like a social media person. And they just were capturing everything and putting it out. And I appreciated that, how they did it, their branding. And it was, the branding was very true to them and kind of their values.
Were they in the construction industry?
They were in the fabrication industry. So they weren't necessarily in construction, but they built custom, they did custom projects for restaurant clients. And who they are. Again, I don't want to. But I could follow their trajectory as a company, and they not how much you could attribute their growth to their social media and all that, I don't know. But man, they constantly put content out, and they still do today, and they've grown rapidly. Yeah, and they've grown in different segments, but their content is always on brand, and I appreciate it. And I feel like, okay, well, I know who these guys are. I know why they're doing what they're doing. And they're really successful. And I would bet a lot of it would be attributed to how they just captured everything.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. How you break that down is about content, but it mostly is about consistency. And I think if you do it more and more and more, then you become a thought leader,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
become an individual that, whether you do or not, it seems to know more in this industry than the next person.
Yeah.
And that becoming a thought leader then is a real interesting place to be, because I think then you've probably reached an amount of success as it relates to media outreach or social outreach. Success meaning that it's probably working for you at that given time. So, I think there is something to be said, and to build that team and to understand that consistency of delivery, whatever platform you choose to put it out in. If you can resonate, through a number of years, I think it should be very effective. Like, there's a number of people in Austin that do that well, not so much architecturally, but I know there's builders, there's construction science, there's health and wellness. There's all these, there's these different avenues that, in those different avenues, you could probably pick 2 to 3 thought leaders of that industry that has risen based on their outreach.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that, like that verbal delivery, and being consistent about that verbal delivery, no matter what project you're talking about.
Yeah. So again, you're saying you're going to pull back and kind of reassess things a little bit. Like, but what do you think your next step is? Like, how are you going to go forward with marketing and business development? Like, what's your strategy now?
Yeah, I think the pulling back is more so since we have multitude of changes in every little arena that we work in internally. The pulling back is being certain about the content or the delivery that we choose to put back out, right? Because there will be a name change.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a new company. It's a reemerging of the old to the new that has a new name, right? And so you can't think that you're going to deliver the same content, the same verbal, the same. You can't do it the same. So there's a pulling back to recalculate what that strategy is, and how more effective, or how more pointed, or how different, or how concise can we be whenever we reapproach it. So it'll probably be a lot of the same, and it will be social media, it will be website, it will be books and magazines and such. But I think it needs to be. It can't be, we produce beautiful work.
Yeah.
Whether we do or not, I don't know. Some people think we do. Some people think we don't.
Yeah.
But that's very subjective. But we have to be really consistent about the verbal delivery outside of the work that we produce, so that we can become a thought leader. And that, I think, is resonating, and it takes a little bit of time of how you approach that.
Yeah.
We still have to stay consistent, right, in terms of the social media or whatever output that we're doing, but we're just not hitting it as hard right now.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm learning. It's because I think that we're going to find a sweet spot that works for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think we want to attract the attention of the right client. That's the other thing too, right? Is we don't want to do just this scattershot approach. Well, we're doing the scattershot approach, but I think what we're trying to tease out is finding that right client that kind of like we've talked about, we want to be more diligent with partnering with the right people. And so we're casting a big net to get, exposure, but when we start getting opportunities back, that'll give us the freedom to be more intentional about who we work with. That's the hope anyway, right?
Well, we're talking about this in terms of getting new work, but have you found a difference yet that is an avenue to getting staff, right? To getting a quality of staff that they're excited to work with you and they're coming to you for a particular reason because they saw the outreach.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the other side of this effort is when we're out there talking to people, potential new hires. We've heard and we've actually seen where they do go and they check us out on our social media platforms. And I've had, so early on when I first started Citadel, we put a video out that talked about our core values. And if you go to our YouTube page, it's kind of a pinned video, and it talks about real, raw, relevant, relentless results, right? And what that means to us. And I've had a bunch of people that were interviewing with us reference that video. They're like, "Man, I really like what you said there. I feel like that's me. You're talking to me." Yeah. I think so. So absolutely, the content that we're creating is also, we're putting a message out as to who we are and why we do certain things. And we're hoping that we attract people that align with that. Yeah. Because that's what when we're out there interviewing and bringing people on, we're trying to find that person's qualities. Are they going to be a good fit? I mean, for me, we have David, who's our senior PM. He and I interview everybody that we bring in at either the project manager level or the superintendent level. And what I'm trying to do is see if that person could be a good fit, personality wise, energy wise, culture wise. David is looking for that too, but he gets deeper into like skill set, and what are you capable of doing? What are you experienced in doing? But yeah, I mean, we're looking for people that would be a good team member. Yeah. And that goes beyond skill set. That goes beyond, have you actually built what have you built what we're going to be asking you to build, the product type? It's like, are you somebody we can trust? Yeah. Are you somebody that'll think outside the box? Are you somebody that'll be authentic and honest? Are you somebody that can stay focused? Right? Are you somebody that's going to be results driven? Mm-hmm. And because we feel like, and obviously why this is, our core values are what they are, is no matter what, if we stick to those, we'll be successful. Yeah. So we're trying to find people that, exhibit some of those qualities.
Yeah. I think we found that our outreach has reached more staff related conversations than work conversations. Yeah. And we get resumes from all over now. I mean, it's outside of the U.S. people coming in. So there's a level of interest and curiosity that I think happens with that. And that's a good thing, right? I mean, it's reaching someone, and you never know when those conversations are going to be effective. Yeah. Based on whoever they are and whoever they're talking to, but I think the difference of individual that you reach based on whatever you're producing is real interesting, because it's. I often think. The amount of information that we push out in terms of I often think that it's not necessarily about the final product. Yeah. Right. It's about something else. It's about our work atmosphere. It's about us. It's about how we choose to process our work internally, our culture. Mm-hmm. And that's a real interesting difference, because some folks out there in our world, it doesn't have to be architecture or construction. It could be anything, right? They could be attracted for face value. Yeah. Oh, these guys are producing this beautiful work, but they have a shit pour like it's a sweatshop. I don't care. I'm just going to go because I want this in my portfolio. Yeah, that's a real interesting thing to suss out, because we get both of those, but then we're attracted to the individual that is more interested in the cultural atmosphere.
What's the tell of somebody that is just looking to come on and the whole face value? They want to do a project that they could put on their portfolio, resume, and like how do you how do you suss that out?
Well, yeah, during the interview process, we're pretty candid and say we're an office for everyone, right? We don't often, I mean, we don't always have the best budgets. We don't always have these magazine ready projects. We're interested in this other thing. And it could be that we like the client. It could be that we like the arena of this particular project, if it's affordability, or if it's for just people that can't, that can't afford to house themselves in a way that, is above and beyond just you're living on the street.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of interest other than just sheer magazine ready aesthetics that we enjoy. And sometimes that's not for everybody. Right. And so to talk about the reality of, this was a beautiful project. It was very successful in many ways, and it got published all over the place. But then there's this other thing that we do.
Yeah.
Can you handle this other thing? Can you handle making a space nice with a bucket of paint?
Mm-hmm.
That's all you got. How are you going to do it? Right. And a lot of times in that conversation, people will say, oh, yeah, that's good for me. But we have had individuals pass through and it wasn't for them.
Sure.
Right. So it's a gut check about what it is that you're after in this profession.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, as we both know, you can't really get through that level of understanding of an individual based on one or two conversations.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
It'll unfortunately take a couple months to
yeah.
to get involved.
You do the best you can,
But I think through that content that you're producing, you hope that you're reaching that audience.
Yeah.
Right. Other than, we built this great project. And
yeah.
So
yeah, and it's you keep saying consistency, and that's really it. It's a long-term thing.
Mm-hmm.
My first company, we would make a big effort on sales, get work in, and then focus on the work, and then we'd start slowing down, and then we'd focus on sales, get some work, focus on the work, and then slow down. So we did these big, peaks and valleys. So we're trying to smooth that out now a little bit, just keep it, and get it to a place where it's kind of automated. Yeah. It's just we're constantly pumping stuff out, and then hopefully, we'll start getting interest coming in, both from a client side and from a potential employee side. Because I would argue now that the better you can build your team, right, through attracting and qualifying and bringing on really high quality people, that's just going to make your results better. And if your results get better, that's going to attract more people to you.
Yeah.
Right. So
what is the thing in marketing that makes you the proudest? Like, for instance, there's these books, or there's these magazines that we've been in or we haven't been in, right? It really creates more work, it adds costs. Like, to get in some of these things, it doesn't make sense financially.
Mm-hmm.
But when I see our work in there, I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
It's like a little trophy. Is there anything like that in your world that you're after?
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I see the same things. We don't. A lot of the stuff that we do is not candidates for awards, but the pitch was, and that's and that's probably one of the most significant projects that I've ever done in terms of everything about it. Just how it went, how it felt, the response that it gets from people. Right. So I'm very proud of that, and very proud to be part of that. I'm proud to use that in our marketing. We just actually this morning, we did a video about the pitch, and it just went out this morning. And so, yeah, I'm proud of that. But, beyond that, again, a lot of our projects, they're not in that space where they get that kind of acclaim. What makes me proud on those kind of projects is to look back at the numbers. Like, one of our early clients with my first company was CC's Pizza, and we did somewhere in the neighborhood of like 280 projects for them across the country.
Yeah.
And I know what it took and what we had to build to do that number of projects the way we did it. And I'm proud of that. The projects themselves it's a pizza buffet concept.
Yeah.
There's not really too much that's, you would say, special or, design driven about those. And so, I'm proud of the fact that we can look back and say that we did certain things, and we can, we use that in our marketing. Right now with 7 Brew, we're managing pre-development efforts, entitlement work, due diligence, and we're starting to build pretty good scale with that. So we can look back and say that, with 7 Brew, we've managed over 50 projects for them in a pretty short period of time. And that's cool to say that, and because I know what it took to build that up and do that. So, yeah, I mean, there's certain things that I periodically stop and look back on and I'm proud of, but man, I'm pretty front facing. It's like, what's next?
Yeah.
I tell you right now, if everything goes well, that the 2 projects that we're getting ready to start, that I'll talk more about once they're 100% locked in. I know those are going to be something that we're going to be very proud of.
Yeah.
That's why we're going to document the process on both of these, because I'm really excited about them. And I think they're going to be really good projects that we will be proud of for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. By the time they come out in magazines and books, print is one of those things where I think it's really cool to see your work, and they interview you and your name's in there and your company names and blah, blah, blah. But by the time that happens, I am so tired.
Yeah.
I'm like, great, let's put it on the shelf. Let's move on.
Yeah. That's why I think you got to get a little distance in between it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, we had a couple of these Torchy's projects that we did that in the moment was like, holy shit. And you get to the end of it and you're like, man, I never thought this was going to end. But we got it done and we moved on.
Yeah.
And I can look back at those now and be like, man, we did some pretty significant stuff in terms of projects and design as it relates to the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
And I can look back at them now and be like, man, that was okay. I can remember the good times and, and then the finished product was very appealing. We're proud of it. What's the one project that stands out for you that you're the most proud of since you started?
Yeah, I get that question all the time. It is hard to. It's hard to pick one. I would say The Pitch is one of my favorites thus far. Not because of the end product, but it's because of the process that we got to work within.
Yeah.
Right. It's something that I'm real interested in. And so I think it changed the mindset in terms of how I talk to our potential clients. How do I talk to our team? How do we structure projects? So it was this pivot that I can point back to that I'm real proud of and I'm real interested in doing better, doing more.
Yeah.
And it just so happened to get published all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Which is even, that's icing on the cake.
Sure.
There's other projects that I was excited about and not equally as beneficial in terms of the process, but they were fun to work on, but the product didn't come out as nice. And that takes some, that puts some water in the fire, right?
Yeah.
You want it to be publishable and you want to be proud of it. And you want your team to be proud of it. Not necessarily, I think some of the excitement for me is our team looking back and saying, "Oh, that turned out. I really like that project. That was a lot of fun. It looks great. I can't wait to go back and visit."
Mm-hmm.
That's really more gratifying to me, because I know that it was a tough, it was probably a tough road to get there, but then that gratification for the team found itself at the end, right? And whether it could be in the media, I don't really care all that much, but I think it's seeing that light bulb, that interest, and that continuation of effort and work, and that excitement from your team. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So there's several of those that actually happen, and whether there's some have been residences, some have been commercial, some have been multi-story mixed use, but they're few of them. Not all of them have this success because of various reasons in terms of our workflow. And I think those points are real important to identify and just pull out as little nuggets.
Yeah.
So, you want to build that again. You want to keep doing that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't really pertain to any particular project. It could be the smallest project that was as successful as the pitch or anything like that. But yeah, I think that highlights a very positive day-to-day atmosphere, which creates this life balance.
Yeah.
Right. That I'm after.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing, you got to keep showing up, doing this shit every day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I feel that way when, I'm around our team and they're in there, like you said, and they're engaged, and it's like, man, okay, this is cool. Like I feel good knowing that I help create something that other people can get involved with and be engaged and fulfilled. And like they enjoy what they're doing inside of this thing that I created.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that feels better than, any of the financial.
Yeah.
Aspects of it. It's like, man, this is because I know, and I've seen it in several other cases where, man, if you can keep people engaged and happy and challenged and all that, man, you can do a lot of shit.
You can do a lot of shit.
You can go a lot of places with that.
Signs of a good leader right there.
Well,
looks like you're doing it.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, that was good.
Yeah. I am interested in, I was interested when you said that the other day. I was like, oh yeah, I'm real curious to see what Jeremy's take is on marketing.
Well, I'll show you. I mean, we're getting it pretty much mapped out right now. Like I said, I've got to, I'm working on writing everything down and having kind of a workflow map.
Yeah.
But like we've got a Google Calendar that my social media guy and I jump on every Monday, and we're kind of plotting stuff out, and then we've got another spreadsheet that we're tracking the metrics. But yeah, right now really it's just we're focusing on just content capture. I'm getting ready to ramp that up a little bit because, like I said, I've got we've got a full-time person now, and we're going to try to fill up his schedule of like, man, I want to shoot not every day, but almost every day. I want to be doing something to capture content. And then he's really good at starting to put videos together and editing them. And we're gonna try a few different things with that. But yeah, we're gonna just try to really put a bunch of stuff out and see what we put a bunch of lines out.
I think it's good timing, right? And I think it's actually excellent timing because
I want to do it when we don't really have to do it. Because if we got to the point where like, man, I've got to we got to sell a bunch of work because man, I got to keep people busy next month. Then I think the messaging comes from a different place. Like right now, we don't we've got enough work to last us the rest of the year, and so it's we're coming at it with a different I don't want there to be any desperation coming through the messaging. You know what I mean?
No, you don't.
It's like
you don't want that at all.
we want to
but
be authentic and stay true to what we're doing. And
I think what I'm saying is the market, we're in one of the lowest points in the market. I don't know if we're in the lowest right now or not, or if we're upswing.
yeah,
But if you can produce that content, secure your arena and social media, or wherever you're uploading it on, and then once people are back and ready to engage, and it's out there, and you're going to be the first hit or the second hit, whatever it is.
Yeah,
it's a real good spot to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do know that it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of money. And if you do it right, it's effective, whether you are interested in that arena or not.
Yeah.
Like it's a necessary evil that I just can't. Me personally, I don't gravitate towards, right? I have a hard time making time for it, but I just don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, it is fun to know that you've produced this and it's going out and people are seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much competition out there that if you don't do that, you're just gonna be left behind.
Yeah, it's part of kind of setting yourself.
Part of the game.
Setting yourself aside. Separating yourself from other people.
Yeah.
Again, part of me is, like I said, is looking at these other companies that are bigger and growing, and I'm like, they're not really doing this, but then again, I think like they're old school, and they were able to grow without it.
They did some form of it somehow.
Probably. Yeah. And maybe they're just not, the folks that are running those companies they're a different generation, and they're not interested in this newer thing. I mean, social media's been around now for 15 years, but they're not adopting it as quick, maybe. So we're gonna dive into it, see what happens.
Yeah. I was talking to someone, he's a builder here in Austin, and he's all over Instagram and social media, making videos and showing his work and stuff. And I was asking him how he was doing, and he was like, "Yeah, man, we're still looking for work." And I was thinking, man, the amount of time that you must spend doing your videos, like that was a moment where I thought, damn, I don't know about that. Is it worth it? And maybe it is. I don't know, because he's pretty big out there in his arena. But
but it doesn't feel like he's getting a lot of work from that.
Maybe
effort.
He is. I just didn't hear it in his voice.
Yeah,
he was maybe. The other thing too is like, which I know we're talking about it on a different level. Just being of a mindset is getting. Being attracted to the likes. I forget. There's like this psychological thing that the dopamine hits, right? Because you have so many likes, and people are watching.
Sure.
But it's not really effective in the real world in terms of maybe applying it to revenue or new work.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was thinking, maybe you like that dopamine hit because you have this audience. So I don't know. It's always intriguing about why and how and the effectiveness of that push.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
let's check in 8 months, and I'll tell you.
Yeah,
how it's working for us.
Well, I believe that you've got consistency, right? So you're going to reach an audience.
We're going to be consistent. Now, whether or not, again, we're going to check in towards the end of the year and kind of look at, okay, what have we done? What are the metrics? Can we point back to real results?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, well then, okay, well then like you, we're going to pivot and maybe try something else. And I think there's always going to be a place for, marketing your product in different ways.
But there's also something that you'll pull out of it in terms of whether it's doing what you're currently doing in terms of documenting your work and creating a library, there's something there that's really good to hang on to.
Yeah.
And it may not be how you like, it may be a more efficient model that costs you less or takes less time from your day.
Yeah.
But to document it in a way that remains consistent, like knowing those nuggets, I think that's really, really good to hang on to.
Yeah.